Okay, okay. Good call. What I have to say, okay, 6:10 we will start. What I have to say will not last more than half an hour, okay, unless you have a lot of questions, right? Start. Start it. Okay. Good evening. So welcome everyone. Thanks for coming at this hour. Uh, this is a presentation about presentations. All right. So I was asked by this is a part of the research club activities. Uh, so and this research club guys asked me, can you speak about something? Can you give a talk about something? So I said I'll give a talk about giving talks. All right. Um, this is a talk that I used to do every year for research scholars. Okay, pre-pandemic days. It's a long time ago if you think about it. All right. Uh, used to be a part of this introduction to research. How many of you are research scholars here? Very good. Okay, that's a reasonable number of years. Fair number. Yeah, so, but pre-pandemic days, there used to be this introduction to research ID 6021 department module, where there were many modules on how to use LaTeX effectively, how to do data analysis effectively, how to present effectively, and so on, by various faculty. And I used to do this one presentation on how to present effectively. Um, yeah, so this is a very personal sort of a very subjective take on making presentations. Making good presentations, giving good talks is very much a soft skill. Right? It's not a hard skill where there's one correct answer. Right? It's not like some engineering problem or a maths problem where there is a correct answer, right? This is very much a soft skill. It's like cooking or singing, or there is you can't really specify how to cook well or how to sing well. You have to learn it from others who do it well, right? Correct. So it's a little bit like that. It's a soft skill, And therefore, there are many opinions, and because it's a very subjective matter, people are very attached to their style of doing things, their way of doing things. They have strong opinions on sticking to their way of doing things. It's all about finding what works for you, right? Then why are we here? Okay, so I'm just going to share my perspective on this, and if somebody else were to give a talk on this, you will probably hear some slightly differing opinions or completely or some non-overlapping set of opinions on this. Yeah, so it's soft skills. So it's a little bit like, as I said, it's like cooking. If you want to learn how to cook well, what would you do? Right? Do you guys cook? Any of you? Who can cook well here? Who can cook well? Only one person can cook well here. Two persons, okay, three persons. That's very small actually, right? An extremely small number for this class, right? Yeah, so if you have, how did you learn to cook? How do you figure out how to cook well? In practice, right? You have to first observe an expert, right? Let's say your mother is a great cook. You have to see her operate, right? What does she do? Right? Observe everything, right? Observe some best practices, right? Correct. That's how you, and then you learn some more do's and don'ts, and sort of try it out yourself, make some mistakes, right? Get some feedback from the experts and others, right? Saying what went wrong, what went right, right? And then you iterate on it and get better, right? That's how you do it, right? But there are some general principles, right? In all of this, even in the subjective things, there are some things that you should follow, right? So, for example, there are, say, if you are cooking, do you put salt first or salt last? First or last?
First. It will mix properly.
No.
Last.
You put salt last, right? Because stuff doesn't cook if you put first, right? So typically you put last. Okay, so there are some things that you don't do, right? You are singing, you have to sing on key, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there are some things that you should follow, right? So there are some guiding principles that you should stick to. But by and large, you have to figure out your way of doing things, right? There's a lot of you in it, right? Just like in cooking or singing, there's a lot of you in it, right? So even in making good presentations, giving good talks, it's all about you, right? Projecting your view or your personality or put yourself into that. There's a lot of you in it, right? So, but what I'm here to discuss about is some broad pointers in my view. Others could have different views, and we can discuss them. Okay, this is doesn't have to be one-way transmission. You can pitch in with what your views are, and if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. All right. Okay, so this is mainly restricted to academic presentations. Okay, so that's the stuff that I know about, right? Corporate, this might even hold for technical corporate world to some extent, the engineering side of things, but certainly it doesn't hold for more consultancy management type presentations at all. Okay, because I have no idea about them, I don't know what their priorities are, what their values are, and so on. This is about making academic presentations, research presentations for your BTech project or dual degree project or master's thesis or PhD defense or whatever, at whatever level, right? Conference presentations. You got a paper accepted into a conference, you have to go to a conference and give a talk, right? So those kind of scenarios, okay? How does this move forward? All right, okay. Okay, so the first challenge, what is the challenge here? So you've got a paper accepted into a conference, or you're going to present on your master's thesis or PhD thesis or whatever. Congratulations, you got your paper in. Now you have to go present it, right? So what is the challenge that lies ahead of you? The challenge is to it's an opportunity to, make an impact on your audience, right? You have to impress upon your audience and convey a sense of excitement and convey a sense of importance about what you've done, right? Why you've done what you've done is important. Why is it exciting? Why should you pay attention? Why should anybody care? Right? Right? Why I'm so excited about it, so you should be excited about it, kind of a scenario. Right? It's not a exercise in just telling. It's not information transfer. It's not that you are trying to just transfer your knowledge of what you have done or your project to somebody else. Right? The objective is get people excited. Right? Get people to care. Right? Convince people that what you have done is exciting and important. Right? That is the key challenge. Right? So it's not a bland exercise in information transfer. By the way, these slides are there on my webpage. You don't have to take notes. Everything is you can just download the whole thing. Okay, the PPT is there on my webpage. Right? Now, so that's the good part. You got your paper into a conference, and you're excited, and you want to tell other people that you are excited and convey your sense of excitement about your work. Right? But let me also give you some bad news. Okay? The bad news is that nobody cares about your work. Okay, not even one person cares about your work in your audience before a priori. Okay, your talk will be in one session in some conference, or your talk may be like some seminar on some day or whatever, right? Except maybe some close friends who may be there because you're friends. Nobody really cares about your work, right? Because you've done something very specific, right? Which is very specialized, right? You've done some very small flavor of some very small area that you've done, worked on, right? Nobody cares. Okay. So your primary objective should be to uh, catch the attention of an audience which is typically indifferent, right? The audience is neither interested nor hostile. Okay, if you go to a conference, most people have a laptop in front. They're probably punching emails or whatever, right? They do not care. Okay, it's your job to make them sit up and listen, right? So you have to convey a sense of excitement and energy and say, hey, so that's an interesting problem. Oh, that's an interesting talk, right? That has to start from the word go. All right. So you have to start in a very exciting and attention capturing way. Because if you lose the audience in the first couple of minutes, you lost them for the rest of your talk. Right? So your primary attention should be to catch the attention of a objective should be to catch the attention of an indifferent listener. Most people don't care. Okay. Uh, at a high level, when you give a talk about your work, uh, you can focus on the following. Uh, what have you done, right? What have you solved? What problem have you worked on? What have you done? And why is it important? Why should you care, right? Why should the audience care? Then you can, you know, once you have their attention on why is this problem important, why you should care, then you can divert their attention slowly to what was the key challenge, what is the key difficulty, right? How did you overcome those difficulties? What is the key challenge that you overcome? What is your key idea that you contributed, right? That can come after you captured, you convinced your listeners that they should care about what you've done. And always end with a take-home message, right? And no matter how good a job you do, people don't remember details. Okay, you've gone over you convince people that your problem was important. Then you've gone over all the challenges, difficulties, how you overcame them, what your results are, blah blah blah. And then if you stop there, nobody will remember anything, right? It's a good idea towards the end of your talk to have some kind of a take-home message. That take-home message could be a plot. It could be one key intuition. It could be, I don't know, right? It could be something, some one key idea, right? But if there is, I'd like to think if we give a talk, if there's one slide that conveys the essence of this whole thing, what should that be, right? And you can say so also, right? If you fell asleep, hey, you know what, this is the only slide that you really need to, understand, or I really need to uh, take home from the stock, right? So have a take home message, have that plot or that one key idea or intuition that you would like to remember. Hey, oh, so that girl, yeah, I remember that plot, that was interesting, right? That slide, right? So that have that one key milestone that everybody would remember, and point the audience attention to that um, key message or the key intuition or the key curve or the plot or whatever. Okay. Any questions so far?
So this key home message cannot be the summary. Then you have to make a smaller part than summary.
Yeah, I'm not talking about a summary of what you've done, right? It's got to be something better than that, right? It's not a summary saying that these are the things I did, right? But it should be. It depends on what your problem is and what your paper is about. But think about what was the one most important intuition that you gained, or your discovery that that people didn't know before your work, or one unexpected behavior of some parameter with something else, or something that really catches the attention of people, something that is the key aspect of your work, right? That one thing, if your audience were to forget everything about your face and your slides and your work, but that one thing that they should take,
Yes.
right? uh, there is I feel there are three stages to communicating effectively, uh, especially when it comes to these academic ideas. Uh, this is true. I feel this particular thing is true even in the written form, in the when you write a paper, write a report, and also true when you make a presentation. That there is three stages in which learning or cognition happens. That you first tell them what you will tell them. Okay, so you tell them what you're going to say, right? Tell them what you will tell them, and then tell them what you told them. All right, this is like you're coming back and giving a reprise, right? Uh, so this really, the way the human brain works, you introduce something, right? What have you done, type of a thing. Then you go ahead into tell them what you did, and then come back and tell them what you did, right? Do this thrice. Okay, think about it. Okay, uh, even if you write a paper, you must have written papers, right? The introduction, you say what you did, and then you say what you did, and then you said what you did, right? In your conclusions, the summary, right? Everything is said thrice, right? That's a very good way to communicate, right? Tell them what you will tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Okay, this is a good principle in my view to follow. So your presentation should be structured as such. Which part of this are you in, right? Are you going to tell them or tell them or tell them what you told them part, right? Think about it this way. This is a suggestion. Okay, any questions, any suggestions, comments? Okay, so in the more pedestrian, mundane way, this is where you tell them what you will tell them as your initial outline and motivation, what broad motivation, what you're going to do, type of a thing. Okay, then tell them part is main contributions, challenges, and quoted. This is the main body of. This is where the details lie in some sense. Okay. Finally, tell them what you told them. Uh, Recap. Always recap. Right. I would notice that recap is always useful, even in classes. Right. A short summary after a lot of details. A short summary, with a recap is always useful for learning. Right. So this part is really a recap. Okay. What you say. This part, you tell them what you told them part, recap and summarize your main contributions and significance of your work, take home message, as I said, right? This is where your take home message or the key intuition or that one key plot, what are the key lessons learned, right? Those sort of things can come in this part. Okay. So in your the pedestrian part of the presentation can have these bits, but there is a meta idea behind these parts that you're structuring it like tell them what you will tell them what you told you, right? Okay. This is uh, this is generally true for any kind of. This is the way we learn. Okay, this is has nothing to do just with research presentations. It's true for lectures. It's true for presentations. It's even true for the way we write reports and papers and all that. From now on, I'll go to specifically making this PowerPoint slide, this kind of presentations, right? The slides-based presentations. A lot of conferences are also doing posters these days. That's a separate topic of discussion. We can also discuss that. I have not prepared stuff for that, but a lot of conferences also have posters these days. I have not covered them. Okay, when it comes to uh, this kind of presentations, uh, projecting presentations, there are three things that matter: your slides, your soundtrack, and your delivery. Right? Slides is something you prepare offline. Soundtrack is also something you prepare offline, but that's what you speak, right? So when I'm presenting, you are looking at the slides a bunch of the time, but you're also looking at me occasionally, but you're listening to me, right? You're listening to me and looking at the slides and so on, right? So that's the soundtrack is what I'm speaking, and the delivery is the manner you speak. Okay, that matters a lot. The manner of delivery, the style of delivery matters a lot. Okay, so these I will go over one by one. Okay, just these three things, and then I'll be done. Okay, slides, and you will probably realize that I'm violating some of these rules myself. Okay, what I'm advocating may not be reflected in this presentation. So the slides, what's the point of slides? They are meant to be visual anchors to your speech. Okay, the presentation is what you speak. All right, you're here for a lecture. You're here to hear somebody speak. You're not here to look at the slides. Understand? Correct? The slides are only, the main thing is the speech, the speaker's speech. Correct? I said, okay, I'm going to have a session today. KJ sir is going to do this. Okay, KJ sir is going to do a presentation, right? You didn't come to see my slides. The slides are anchoring what I want to say. Correct? But the presentation is the soundtrack. The presentation is not the slides. Okay. So slides are merely visual anchors, but they're very important. In fact, I made these slides, I don't know, some 8 years ago or even more. I just pulled them, downloaded them up, and I started speaking. All right, because they are giving me the talking points. Right? I didn't prepare this talk for this. I prepared this talk 8 years ago or 9 years ago, right? And I literally I was traveling all day. I showed up in my office, downloaded the slides, and showed up here, right? But I'm just, having these as anchors to go over my talking points. They're merely giving me talking points, right? What am I explaining? What am I, what is the key? What is the sequence of my thoughts, right? That's what it is anchoring, right? That's what I mean by anchor, right? It gives the audience to something to anchor to while you listen, right? Therefore, it's only an anchor. Since it's only an anchor, you keep them very sparse. Okay, have a very few words in them. Do not have complete sentences. All right. Certainly no complete sentences. Maybe very few bullets or very few words. Right. Not meant to be complete. Sometimes I see presentations with big passages. Nobody will. If you start reading that, you will not listen to the speaker. Right? At some point, you will fall asleep reading all that stuff. Right? You cannot process information that way. The brain doesn't process information like that. Okay, it's better to keep the audience listening to you while they merely anchor onto some key bullets or key points on the slides. One very important thing about making this kind of presentations is to be as visual as possible. Okay, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Okay, it's absolutely true. Okay, block diagrams, toy pictures, animations, even some cartoons, whatever it takes to convey your idea. All right. If you can say it with a picture, say it with a picture. Okay, do not say it in words. Okay. If you feel like you cannot say it very effectively with a picture, think again. Don't give up easily. All right. Because the lazy way is what I've done. Students, just type it out. Typing is easy, right? To draw a picture is hard. Right? You have to download something or draw something yourself in PowerPoint or pull up a cartoon or right, do something of that form. It's work, right? To make an animation, PowerPoint has very beautiful animations. You can use them, right? So many processes, many flows, right, can be easily explained or best explained using pictures and animations as opposed to words, right? So whenever you're talking about your problems model or the system or circuit or whatever it is that you have, put pictures. As much as possible, put pictures. And equations, we like equations. We are people in electrical engineering, we are people in engineering, right? We have a lot of equations typically, right? But equations are your enemy when it comes to, they're okay in classes. They're a terrible idea in these presentations, especially brief presentations about your project or your research. Okay, equations should be kept to the most essential ones. Okay, you keep as few equations as possible. Keep only the ones that are very, very central to your work, right? Maybe if your main result itself is an equation or a bound or something like that, you want to keep that, right? Because that's your result. But the more equations you put, the more audience you will lose. Okay. There was do you know which famous book this is? That the more equations you put in the book, the author was told that his sales would halve. Famous book. And then the author put one equation in the book. It's a popular book as it happened. It's Stephen Hawking's brief history of time. You just put E equals mc squared. That's the only equation in there. Anyway, so I just said, like so, every equation you put will probably halve your audience. Okay, because your audience tends to be somewhat broader typically, right? They are not interested in your specific notation. That's another problem with equations, right? It's very notation dependent. Start putting more equations, you need to explain more Greek symbols. Right? That's it. Right? You lost people already. Right? You will be wondering what is that alphas and betas and m's and n's. Right? Nobody remembers all that. Right? Why do you want to do all that? Right? Explain conceptually, qualitatively. Right? Explain the dependence of this increases that happens. Right? Explain visually as much as possible. And so keep equations to the absolutely the most essential ones. Every equation you add will lose you a factor of half your audience will go. Okay, will at least lose you. Certainly, never go over long derivations of proofs. You can, indicate how it goes. You can say, hey, this is the key idea we use to derive this, or this is the key theorem we use for proving this, something like that. Right? You can always indicate some key ideas in one slide or something like that. Never go over long derivations and proofs. This is a little bit of a difficult thing, especially for PhD students, you've spent maybe months or years doing exactly that, right? You spent a long part of your PhD life basically doing derivations, right? But that is your toil, okay? That's not what the audience is interested in. The audience, as I told you, is not interested in you or your work. They really don't care at all how much you've toiled to get your derivation done or get your proof done. They have zero concern. They're only interested in what is the main idea, what is the key result, what should I care about this, right? So do not go over long derivations or proofs just because you like it or you spend so much time on it. The audience doesn't care, right? Uh, so these are some general pointers I have about slides. Uh, I can also remark about softwares that people typically use. People use, what do you guys use if you want to make a presentation? You use PowerPoint, that's one option. Another is, huh? Google Slides, which is similar. A Beamer, LaTeX, right? Uh, Anything else that you use? There will be open office versions of it, right? Let's say Beamer, Google Slides are basically, sorry, PowerPoint and Google Slides are basically similar, right? One of them is free, the other is not, right? And then there is Beamer, which is LaTeX. In my view, this could be controversial. I feel that Beamer should not be used for presentations. Okay, I think Beamer is just a really bad idea. It's a really bad software for presentations, for making technical presentations. Unless you really know how to use it, which is almost a zero fraction of the population. Okay. So I would say if you're a research scholar sitting out here, you're going to do seminar 1, seminar 2, thesis submission, DDP presentations, whatever it is that you're going to do, my prayer is do not use Beamer. Okay, it is really an awful software especially for students. Okay, you know why? Because of all these reasons. Okay, it makes putting equations very easy because LaTeX you can put equations very easily, right? So it makes putting equations very easy. If it's not equations, you will put bullets /item, right? And bullets are also boring if you think about it, right? And it makes putting pictures really hard. That is the key part, right? It's the exact opposite of what you want to do, right? PowerPoint makes putting PowerPoint to Google. I mean, I'm not marketing Microsoft here, but PowerPoint or Google Slides, these kind of, Apple also has something which is quite nice actually. It's called iLife or Keynote, right? Keynote. Right? That also seems to be nice. Some of my students have used it. It's nice aesthetic as you expect from these Apple softwares. If you have a Mac, which of course will set you back a lot of money, right? But those softwares, PowerPoint, Keynote, Google Slides, they make putting block diagrams easy, pictures easy, animations easy, right? And they make putting equations hard, right? Which is exactly what you want, right? So there is disincentive to put equations, and it's possible to put pictures, right? It's not difficult to draw pictures, and once you get used to it, you can do pictures fairly easily, right? Yeah, so that is this is one view I have. Don't use Beamer. Okay, almost always all Beamer presentations are bad. I've seen good Beamer presentations by professors who are very good at using them, right? Who have years of experience using Beamer. Okay, but that's if you are a beginner, if you are a student, the chances are you'll be terrible at it because you'll have so many other problems, right? And you have a bad software, you've had it. Okay, you're not going to do a good job of the presentation. Right? So don't use Beamer. Just use PowerPoint or Keynote, or if you have a Mac. There's also another software called Prezi. Have you heard of it? Prezi. It's something that I've seen people use very well. It's a paid software, okay, it's just like PowerPoint, you have to pay for it. The thing with Prezi is that it's inherently hierarchical, okay? So the way the brain works, the humans perceive information is sort of in hierarchy. You get a rough idea, then you zoom into some part and understand that better, zoom into another part, understand it better, zoom in, understand it better, and so on, right? That's how our brain works, all right? Whereas these kind of slide-based software, such as PowerPoint, uh, even anything, right? Anything that goes like next, has a linear topology. Everything goes in a linear way, correct? Yeah, you understand what I mean? It goes like that. Whereas what you want is that, right? So PowerPoint, when you're doing PowerPoint or any of these slide-based softwares, you have to somehow superimpose a hierarchical presentation over this constrained linear topology, correct? Whereas this Prezi is designed inherently hierarchically. So the Prezi will have a slide like that, and then you click on something, you zoom into that, and then you zoom out, you talk about it, zoom out, and then you go into some other part of the presentation, zoom into that and zoom out. Okay, so it works like that. You can see, just look it up. It's a software you could, I think, download and try for some time. But for making these presentations, where you are trying to, convey a bunch of things, zoom into that, talk about that, then go to a slightly different idea, talk about that, right? Those sort of presentations, for example, if you are defending your thesis, it probably has 3 or 4 chapters of work, right? And each of them could be somewhat different, right? It could explore different aspects of some broader area, right? So you may want to have a Prezi presentation with, where you have this option of going hierarchical, right? You speak about one problem, get into that, zoom out, then go to the next problem, zoom in, then zoom out, and so on, right? So I'm saying that the design of the software itself is hierarchical in Prezi. Okay, so that's something that you may want to keep in mind. Whereas I've never used it because I'm lazy, and I have PowerPoint and I use it. But it's something to think about. I've seen some amazing presentations in Prezi. PowerPoint, you have to artificially somehow superimpose a hierarchical structure on a linear template. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. So even bullets, you don't want to make your entire talk using bullets. Okay, if you just have slide after slide of this point I'm talking about, no complete sentences, of course, have a few sparse bullets. But if your entire talk is bullets, that's also boring, right? You should have more pictures. And bullets are useful for, things like listing advantages or disadvantages. You can have green bullets for advantages, red bullets for disadvantages, up, down, or whatever, right? But don't make your entire talk with bullets. They have their role, but don't make your entire talk with bullets. Any other comments? Slides? Okay, next soundtrack. Okay, so this is the key. I told you the presentation is the soundtrack. The presentation is not the slides. Okay. So with soundtrack, it's all about practice, practice, and practice. All right. When you're giving a presentation, you should practice, practice, and practice. And when you're done practicing, you practice again. Okay. So it is a highly practiced and preset exercise. It has zero spontaneous component in it, in my opinion. Okay, almost zero, I would say. Especially if you're inexperienced. Okay, do not try to be spontaneous. Not worth it. Okay, because you will be tense. Okay, you may not be, when you're facing an audience, it may be, it may be a big conference, or it may be your thesis defense, or there may be big shots in your audience. All of this will happen. Okay, there will be big shots in your audience. You will be scared, right? All of us go through this. So do not try to be spontaneous. Not worth it. Just practice it to the point of being a performance. Okay, if you're acting out in a play, right, think of how you do it. You basically know your lines, right? Have you done plays? How many of you have done plays? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. You know your lines, right? You know your lines fully, right? You know what to say when, right? I would say for students, go with that kind of preparation. Okay, do not wing it. You will do a terrible job. Okay, you will be tense, as I said. You may not have the command over whatever either the full command over the entire area or your language, or you may not find the right words because of various reasons, right? So practice a lot. Okay, make it almost deterministic when it comes to soundtrack. If you're using PowerPoint or something, it gives you a place where you can actually write down the soundtrack. You know that? For each slide, the audience sees something, but my screen here is different. I can actually write the soundtrack. Okay, but you can write it, but don't read off it, because you should have practiced so many times that you're not reading in a play, right? You know the lines, right? It should come out naturally because you practiced it. Okay, so it requires high levels of practice. Be pithy and technically precise. Uh, don't speak flowery language. Don't speak long sentences. Be very, very. These are technical presentations, right? This is where you are deviating from a play where you do speak flowery sentences, right? Here you are supposed to speak very pithy, focused, technically precise sentences. And this is the most important. Speak slowly and clearly. Okay? Speak slowly, don't speak fast. I think this is often I think when Indians speak English, I feel we speak too fast on an average. Okay, because it's not not a native language for any of us. Many of us probably, I don't know how many of you, many of us might have spoken English in a serious way only at college or high school, perhaps, right? Maybe some of you spoke English for a much longer time, but it's probably not, your main native language for the longest time. And for some reason, perhaps because many Indian languages like Hindi are spoken very fast, right? Indians also speak English very fast. Perhaps we mistake fluency for speed also, right? So don't speak fast. Speak slowly, right? Speak slowly and clearly. Actively slow down, okay? Because also when you're tense, you speak fast. Right? When it's tense, you're definitely, your words don't come out clearly at all, right? So actively slow down. Remember, it's again like somewhat like a play. Speak slowly and deliberately, right? When you're speaking out in a play, you speak with a certain, you go speak at a certain rate, right? You practice that also. Practice it. Practice slow speaking, slow, clear speaking. Okay. Already, I mean, and if you are speaking to an audience which may consist of an international audience with people from various countries, this is all the more important, right? Because we already have some accent incompatibility problems, right? So slower always helps. Okay, that I said that, I think, right? We perhaps confuse speed for fluency. Okay, that is the soundtrack. Any questions on this? I said slides, soundtrack, and then delivery, right? So this is the part. This is the style of delivery part. Okay. you are you are looking at me and how am I delivering? That is the part that I'm talking about now. Okay. One key mistake that people make is not face the audience, but instead look at the slides. Okay, don't look at your slides, right? Look at the audience when you speak. You are speaking to the audience, right? You guys have come, right, to listen to me speak, right? So I should face you, right? I should, give that value to your time and face you. I should talk to you, right? So your audience has come to listen to you, okay? So you please don't look at your slides. Okay, I've seen this very often. And when you give presentation, you're looking at the slide instead of talking to the audience. You know what I'm talking about? This is a common mistake. Uh, I don't know why this. I mean, there are reasons that this happens. Perhaps it's because well, maybe you're not well prepared. That's one problem, that you're looking at the slides to see where you are. You can look at it just to see where you are. Just to remember, slides are visual anchors. You can get that anchor from the slide. Okay, I'm also looking at it once in a while to say, hey, what does it say, right? So you can look at it occasionally to get a sense of where you are in the presentation. But if you keep reading like this, right? Maybe you experience this, right? So maybe you experience this. You get bored, right? But there's a huge tendency to do this. A, because A, you're not well prepared. B, because you're tense. Okay. So you made a talk, you made your slides, and then you go to maybe another country to present at a conference. There are all these big shots in the audience, right? It's a huge auditorium, you're tense, right? You're all, you're very nervous. So what do you fall back to? You fall back to your familiar slides, right? You're scared of facing the audience, right? But your slides you're very familiar because you worked on them, right? So you look at it and just go over it and okay, I've done on beat, right? So that is a common tendency. Don't do that. Resist that. Actively speak to your audience. Just look at your slides to get a sense of where you are. Okay, speak to your audience. Always talk to your audience. Okay, it's giving them respect, right? It's valuing their time, right? Please talk to your audience. Don't talk to your slides. Okay. Uh, Also, I mean, don't fidget around, don't give out these nervous gestures. You might have seen, I mean, often people, at the beginning of, especially at the very beginning, people do stuff like this, scratch themselves, betray a sort of nervousness, right? Uh, these immediately they give a sense of insecurity and tension, right? Don't fidget around, stand straight, project confidence. It requires practice, believe me, right? You wouldn't do that in a play again, right? You go and fidget in a place except when your role requires it, right? You don't fidget around, right? This is like that. You go, project confidence, stand straight, okay, and start speaking slowly, clearly, right, with confidence, okay. So you have to do this consciously in the beginning, okay. If it helps you, start like this or start like this, with some stable, confident pose that you pre-rehearse and start. Okay, do this consciously because otherwise you will fidget. Remember, you're very tense, right? I'm talking about a scenario where you're in your defending your thesis or presenting at an international conference. You're very tense. So you have to plan all of this and do all of this consciously. Okay. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, that you talk to your audience and in particular maintain eye contact with the audience. Okay. And it's a good idea to, at different points when you're speaking, to cover different parts of the audience. So if in a lecture or in a talk, it would not be very nice to those guys if I'm only talking to you, right? If I just speak here, they will feel left out, right? And this is a average size room, not very small or very large, right? So I speak only to these people, you guys will feel bad and vice versa, right? So feel, this is again something you have to do with thought and do it deliberately. It's a good idea to talk to one set of people right? Talk to them, looking at them, maintain eye contact. You talk to one set of people, then gradually shift your gaze to another part of the room, right? And talk to them for some more time, right? Spend like 30 seconds, 60 seconds talking to that part of the crowd. Then shift your gaze, talk to them for some more time, right? So that everybody feels like, they've gotten some attention. I've spoken to him, I've spoken to this person, right? So I've covered all parts of the room with some deliberate attention, all right? You have to do this deliberately, with thought, okay? Otherwise, one part of the crowd will feel left out. Another thing is, okay, the first is you don't even face the audience, you face the slides. If you keep, if you just keep going like this, you don't have any anchor, right? You cannot shift too quickly also. It doesn't work. See, then you're not talking to anybody. You are just generally scanning, right? That doesn't work. So this is all standard public speaking stuff. Standard pointers. Okay, you speak to some set of people, talk to them, get some eye contact, get some sort of visual cues, move your gaze, talk to the next crowd, and then talk to the next crowd, scan back, and so on. Okay, and all of this requires some practice. You have to do this deliberately with thought especially uh, when you are a beginner, right? You have to do all of this with conscious effort. Emphasize important intuition or results with the appropriate pauses or flourishes. This is again very important because, see, not everything is equally important. This is always the case, right, in a lecture or a talk. Not everything is important, right? But some things are very important, right? So you want to emphasize that, right? So that comes from intonation and appropriate gestures and flourishes and pauses and so on. Okay, this also comes with practice. I think a common problem that beginning students have, is that you go monotonically, right? Just monotonous, same kind of a tone. I'm just going over it linearly, and I want to be done with it, right? I just want to get off the stage and go back and hide, that kind of approach. You'll just go over it without any emphasis or whatever. Whereas, remember, you have to convey a certain excitement. Why is this important? Why should you be excited? I'm excited. You should be excited, right? So, bring that out, right? Hopefully, you are excited about what you have done, right? So, bring that out. Convey that excitement using the appropriate intonation or flourishes. The one thing I forgot to tell in your the slides bit, when you're making a technical presentation, if you look at any slide, people will definitely read the title of the slide, right? And it's probably all they will ever see. Okay, they may not read what the blah 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 here. Okay, so use that bold font to your advantage. Right, you have your audience attention to the big font over there, right? So often it may be a good idea to use that part of the slide to convey the key message of that slide. Okay. So to give you an example, I don't know. Let's say you want to say something about sampling theorem or whatever, right? Don't say key conclusions of sampling theorem. Say the actual conclusion itself. Nyquist sampling is optimal. You see the difference? Just saying one technical example, right? Or you give a different technical example. Advantages of frequency modulation over amplitude modulation, or something like that. That is just a boring title. But if you say what it actually is, right? That maximum likelihood decoding is optimal, as opposed to saying results for results or decoding results or something like that. You see what I mean? Instead of saying decoding results and you go over the details, you actually say what you want to say in the title itself. Use that, that's very precious real estate, right? It's huge font, occupies a lot of real estate. Everybody reads it, right? Use that real estate on the slides to convey the key message of the slide. Okay, it's very easy to not do this, but it's also very easy to do it if you think about it this way, right? Most people don't do it. Right? They'll probably put advantages or something like that, you know. But actually say what you want to say in the slide in the title itself. Okay. So I just went back because I remembered that it's a good idea. So I'm done with that bit. Delivery, body language, emphasize, important. And that's the most important. Okay, energy and excitement. Okay. To me, energy is all there is. Finally, if you look at speakers who speak well, teachers who teach well, it's all just energy finally, right? If that person is energized and enthusiastic and has a lot of excitement, you can project that energy and excitement. If the speaker is not energetic, the speaker is not excited, there's really zero chance of making your audience feel excited about it. There's no chance, right? Absolutely no way, right? So hopefully you are excited, you are energized by what you've done, right? Your job is to take that energy to your stage and push that excitement to the audience, right? That's really all there is to it. If you ask me, like, you know, the take-home message, I said, no, there should be like one take-home message in every presentation, right? If you remember one slide or one bullet point or one plot that you go home with, so this is all it's about, right? So this is a presentation about presentations, and the one take-home message is energy and excitement. Okay, all of speaking effectively is about pushing energy and excitement to your audience. Okay, so that is what is important finally. If you don't have that, you're not going to present effectively, right? That is pretty much the only requirement in making effective presentations. Everything else is important, but without energy and excitement, nothing is going to work out, right? And if you have energy and excitement, you will probably do a good job. I mean, even if it's slightly suboptimal slides, or even if you're slightly underprepared on your soundtrack, that excitement will save the day for you. That energy and excitement will save the day for you, right? Understand what I mean? I don't know how to get that. How you work yourself to be excited, I don't know, right? But that's all there is to it. The only, if there's one thing that matters, is energy and excitement. Okay? And this is like, you know, a great talk. What characterizes a great talk? It's just that when you hear it, you know it. It's a great talk. You don't say, hey, you know, his slides were good, but, you know, bullets were like this, or soundtrack was like that. A great talk, you know it when you hear one, right? You don't say, hey, you know, this was not good or that was not. You may say that for not very good talks, but the moment you hear a good talk, you know it when you hear one, you know it, right? Also, you know it when you give one. Okay, this is the thing about giving good talks, that even without your audience telling you that it was a good talk, once you've done a good talk, you already know it, right? With that, I would like to close. Okay. Thank you so much. You can, now I'm open to questions to go in about 10 minutes. Okay.